Coming into tonight's matchup, your Washington Mystics were 4.5-point favorites on the road against the Indiana Fever, a team that was 0-3 on their home court coming into this matchup. However, Washington, after being down 3 at the half, unable to find their way into the win column at the culmination. Final score, 87-66. Now Washington ready to head on back to the nation's capital for a matchup against the Phoenix Mercury on Friday. But before we get to that game, we have to break down this game. Welcome to Mystics Postgame Live. Wes Hall here with Chasity Melvin. Of course, Christy and Megan will be joining us in a moment, and we'll hear from head coach Eric Thibault also. But right now, Chas, I want to know what went wrong and why we weren't able to see Mystics basketball after winning 2 strong games against Seattle on the road.
It's the inconsistency, that's what's bothered them so far in these first 8 games. They haven't played with space and pace, and that's the way that Elena Delle Donne and Coach E wants them to play, with space and pace, and they just haven't done that. And obviously, to get where they want to get in the power rankings, to win games like this was a much-needed win.
Yes.
They're going to look back at the schedule and be like, we needed that win. You know, it could come down to that. Unfortunately, though, they met a really hot Fever team that wanted to win. Aaliyah Boston probably got a lot more Rookie of the Year votes tonight with that with that double-double. But at the end of the day, again, it goes back to the Mystics. They turned the ball over. They didn't have any chemistry offensively. The inside-outside game just didn't gel together, and they didn't get the win they needed tonight.
Elena Delle Donne with 17 points to lead all Mystic scorers again. Aaliyah Boston had 23 and 14, a double-double, as you just mentioned. Looking at the third quarter, we knew at the half they were down 3, and then they came out and they had an 8-0 run, and we're like, okay, things seem to be trending in the right direction. And then Indiana answered back with a 9-3 run themselves. I'm curious about the leadership on the court. Who's responsible for keeping that energy or maintaining or creating it? Because this team is successful when everybody is energetic and on the same page.
We saw a very energetic team against the New York Liberty, and I don't think we've found that energetic team since then. Obviously, that's what we're missing here is the leadership as far as who is going to step up? Is it going to be the coach getting into them at the timeouts, or will it be Elena Delle Donne, or is it going to be Maisha Hines-Allen when she comes in with the second unit and comes off the bench and gives them a spark? But they have to find a leader. I thought Natasha Cloud was a little flat tonight, you know, just offensively. I don't know if she was trying to focus on being a facilitator, but there was just no energy across the board, and that's what's been missing when they get stagnant on offense and when they have wasted possessions.
Indeed, Natasha Cloud only 1 for 5 from the field tonight, and ironically took no threes, something where she knocked down 4 against Seattle in the last game, but unable to do so today. I want to bring in Christy and Megan to get their thoughts on this matchup from Indiana. Megan, I'm coming to you first on this one. Just looking at what we know they can do and then what we saw happen tonight, what's the disparity between the two? What were your observations?
2 words, Aaliyah Boston. When you look at, and this is a great stat that we got from Paul Evans, our statistician, Christy, 2 minutes to go in the third quarter, Aaliyah Boston goes to the bench. She sat for 5 minutes, and the Fever scored 3 points. Washington, Wes and Chas, was able to cut that deficit to 7. They made a run. 7:40 mark of the fourth quarter, Boston returns. The game was done the moment she stepped back on the floor, a 23-9 run.
I mean, she was just so incredibly impactful. She also had 6 assists, 1 turnover only. So you're talking about a player who had the basketball in her hands at all times for Indiana. They went through her, they went to her, and she showed up and showed out with her second double-double of her young career. I mean, she just was phenomenal. And it was hard. Even with showing bodies to her, she was still able to kick the ball out and knock in threes for Indiana. So when you have that kind of player who has the wherewithal to know that she can get the shots she wants, and then when that is taken away, she can facilitate from that block area and kick out of double and triple teams that Washington showed to her in the second half. So the fact that she was able to make those great decisions on the offensive end and come up with a massive double-double in this game, I mean, that's just an upside more for her to come in coming games.
And you know what, Wes and Chas and Chrissy, this reminded me of just this one game that we got to see up close and personal with Aaliyah Boston. Yeah. When Brittany Griner, who we will see on Friday, when she entered the WNBA, how easy it was for her to dismantle teams at such a very young age, and then what she was able to do with the people that they put around her. We saw a glimpse of that. I am not in any way, let me be clear, I am not in any way saying that Aaliyah Boston is Brittany Griner, but it has remnants of how how easy the game came to Brittany Griner the way it is coming to Aaliyah Boston right now. When you think of what they've put around her, it is reminiscent of that at a very young age.
Well, Megan and Christy, a thought that I'm having when you mention Brittany Griner and whether it's Aaliyah Boston tonight, I'm thinking about Shakira Austin and the variety of different players that she's going to have to defend and try to score against. Tonight, Shakira had only 6 points. That's not Shakira. That's not the Shakira we've seen since she returned here in her sophomore season. I'm curious, Christy, what does Shakira need to do to be prepared to match up with the Brittany Griner after having a tough matchup against Aaliyah Boston tonight?
Well, she's going to have her hands full again on Friday when Phoenix comes to town. But I tell you what, tonight there was a lot of individual coverage, as I was saying, in the first half with Shakira Austin sitting behind Aaliyah Boston. You're not going to be able to do that against Brittany Griner either. And a player like Aaliyah Boston, she wants that contact on the interior, so she has to stay loose, and she has to work on that defensively. Yes, defenses, block shots, and whatnot, but you have to stay loose and not give up that contact to the offensive post player who wants desperately to know where you are behind you. So you have to make sure that Shakira understands to stay loose and then go for the ball, or like Chas said at halftime, play 3 quarters, play the high side, and then dance to get around before she gets that baseline shot to go. So a lot of crowding of the space is going to be necessary again on post defense for the Mystics as a whole. So it's not just Shakira on an island by herself trying to defend in there. It's going to be a collective effort. So there has to be more pressure on the ball on the perimeter, but there also has to be some cognizance of how to play on the block without giving up so much contact as a defender in the post.
Megan, Christy, I appreciate you as always. I will allow you to enjoy the rest of your evening. Looking forward to seeing you Friday at ESA against the Phoenix Mercury. Right now, Mystics fans, head coach Eric Tebow at the post-game podium. His thoughts on the loss in Indiana.